dealers need to follow the migration of print, right? Away from the B2B SMB space. B2B and SMB space is declining. It's going to decline even more rapidly with the next recession or with the next pandemic. It's just a downward spiral right now. I wrote years ago that dealers need to follow the migration of print, how print migrates from to different types of digital devices, and that was the migration was going to production, and it still is going to production. Production prints clicks are going to continue to grow. But dealers also need to find the other devices that are going to increase their clicks, such as digital label printers. Konica Minolta had them, as you know, years ago. Muratech was the first one to get into saying, hey, you need to follow this path for digital print with labels because it's going to be huge. And they, I think, partnered with some company in Portugal for a couple of years until they got bought out by Konica Minolta. But then Konica Minolta continued that legacy, and now they have a couple of digital label print devices. Canon came out, I believe, with one or two digital label print devices. I don't know if anybody else has followed that path yet, but the other path, which you alluded to many years ago when I saw you out in Las Vegas at a show, is wide format. Wide format, large format. Large format can be those flatbed printers. They can be those roll-fed printers. And if you're a break and fix company, and you want to increase those clicks, you need to take on large format, wide format, roll format production. Again, you need to follow the migration of print if that's the business you really want to stay into.
Well, it's so good to hear you say that, because obviously I have great respect for you. Because what we're trying to do is saying print is not dead. It's the substrates are changing. So, if you like the print business and what it can lead to, like, for instance, the wide format machines that you're talking about, or they call large format machines.
Yep.
They ship their ink in 55-gallon drums.
Wow.
Those don't cost nickels and dimes.
Right.
And I had an interesting discussion. I'm sure you've met him, Frank Malozzi, when he was with EFI, and now he's working for Konica Minolta.
Yes.
He reached out to me many years ago to see what EFI had done. They acquired a large format company. And to make a long story short, when he starts laying out the marketing program, the margin on hardware was only 10% for a dealer. I said, you're not going to get dealers to go for a 10% margin on hardware. He said, how about if I tell them if the device that we're advocating will be their sort of central device is going to sell for $125,000, that within the first year, the supply revenue will be greater than that. And it just kind of blew me away, because I've known Frank a long time. I know he's not going to give me numbers that don't make sense.
Well, you know that they call that the tail, right? Once you place a machine, they call that the tail, and dealers look at that tail of any product and basically, what type of revenue is it going to get me over the 3 to 5 years, or the term of the lease, or maybe the life of the unit in the field. So that tail is actually pretty impressive for that product. Existing clients are not copying anymore. when you walk up and somebody goes to use the copy machine, they really don't make copies anymore. What they are using a printer for, the MFP for, is, of course, prints to the device, but more companies are using them as the communication hub for scanning those documents. When we talk about workflow automation, there's still a vast majority of those clients in the field that are basically just scan the email, scan the folder, type simple workflows where they'll send it off to their hard drive on their server. They'll send it over to their own PC, but they're not creating workflows like, okay, this is a sales document. We need to get this into HR. So IDP can still be a good resource for dealers to communicate to their clients. The problem that I see as a salesperson in the field is it takes more knowledge and more education to the client. The boomers are holding on to the old legacy workflows, right? They don't want to make that jump into IDP yet, or the DocuWares of the world. They just say, basically, it's been working this way. We've been doing it. It works for us. But as soon as the millennials now, they still relish the past. And when they came into the workplace, scan the email worked, scan the folder worked. So they're a little bit more open to IDP and doing workflow automation with scans, but it's still a tougher sell to get them involved. I believe that when workflow and IDP and scanning comes to fruition, will be with that generation of that we spoke about, Generation Z and Gen Alpha, because that's how they grew up. They grew up everything in a digital format, and they want to keep that digital format. So I still believe, I think there's a lot of opportunities for IDP and workflow automation. It's just going to happen very slowly, but it's going to gain speed as these Gen Zs and Gen Alphas get into the workspace.